You're listening to episode 170, and it's going to be a doozy of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. Hey, Ron, when my kids start a new school year, and we go to orientation, the teacher usually, especially when they were younger, I remember very specifically being terrified when the kindergarten teacher got up and said this to the parents. They said, hey, listen, I promise if you don't judge us based on what your kids say about us when they come home, we won't judge you based on what your kids say when they show up in our class. And that was a terrifying thought. I was like, oh, no. I went home and prepared my sons. I was like, don't y'all say anything about us at school.
I know.
No. They're like, what's wrong, Daddy? Why can't I talk at school? But it's just a terrifying thought to have what is your kid going to say?
Exactly right.
Well, guess what happens this episode?
I know what happens this episode, and I'm a little terrified.
I had the privilege, without Ron in the room, and he gave full, just so you know, he exerted zero control over this. He wanted a straight and honest response, and I got to interview his daughter, Lauren, and it is an amazing viewpoint, kind of reversing that perspective. We talk about this where the kid kind of shares their perspective being raised from a D6 perspective, and it is such a cool interview. Can't wait for you guys to hear it.
You know, it truly is to see what you said about the kindergarten teacher. I've never heard that reversal there, but in some of the seminars I talk about, I said, in church, if you want to know what's going on, just teach children's ministry and have prayer time, because you literally get everything, and it all comes to light. So, when I thought about you interviewing Lauren, our Pam and I, our adult daughter, she's married, no kids yet, so I thought this will be very interesting. And at this point of hearing it, I have not heard it yet.
No,
I mean, you've interviewed it, so I've got to be honest with the audience here. I'm looking as forward to hearing it as you are at this point.
He's a little nervous.
As I go into, with a little fear and trepidation. But Pam and I, my wife and I, are very proud of our kids. Both of them adults, both of them in a good place with God. And, I will quickly say it's not always been that way. I think we've talked about this openly. Mm-hmm. We had challenges along the way at different points. And how do you navigate those potential prodigal areas when decisions are being made by, one of your children that you are not pleased with? And staying the course, being consistent, unconditionally loving, really helps navigate those waters very, very carefully. And it's really cool to see the other side of that. So, thank you for taking time with Lauren.
My pleasure. I respected you before, but after that interview, I respect you even more, and you have an amazing daughter. Can't wait for everybody to hear it. We'll be talking about that in just a second, but before we go into that, I really would like to talk just for a second. Just give us an update, because we are getting dangerously close to the D6 conference, your huge event every year for ministers. And, you always say bring the whole team as a ministry, bring volunteer team, or just bring your staff, whatever.
Yes.
And we just love sometimes to take a break and let you update everybody on kind of who's coming, what's going on. I know you've told us before that you guys are doing the experience in a whole different way. Just kind of, I don't know, just get us pumped up about it, because there's a price break coming up, and if you want to come and you want to save money, It's a great time, so we always kind of give you updates right around price break time so we can let you know about that. But tell us, if we wanted to take advantage of that price break, what are we going to get this year if we choose to come? First of all, it's in Orlando. We should start there.
It really is. When we said recalibrate, we're recalibrating the conference experience for you, and we're making a few tweaks. The obvious one is Orlando. I mean, that's a place that people go to for a destination. We went ahead and pushed it forward to be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday experience, when in the past it's always been Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That should allow some people in your church that might not be full-time staff the ability to come when they can take off one less day of work, come tackle that. That should increase the size of your team, get more volunteer leaders there at the actual event. The other part is that we're going to do some coaching there. That always happens informally. That's probably the most fun. I mean, Jeremy, it happens to you, it happens to me, it happens to all of our speakers. People just come to you in the hallway and say, man, I've been listening to the D6 podcast, or I heard you say this. I got a question for you. Mm-hmm. And it's just as simple as that. And they want to know somebody's perspective. Not that we have all answers, but they're just using the multitude of counsel. And we're going to create that formal opportunity for them to have one-on-one coaching sessions with our speakers. And it's going to be set up, and we're not charging for it. So it's going to be available, but people have to sign up for it and tackle that one. We have, the key is, I think, our theme. We've been doing family ministry in the body of Christ now, for thousands of years, but it's a renewed area for the church of the world today, North America and even around the world. And there are some people who think they're doing it well, but they're beginning to ask, are we really doing it well? How do we know if we're doing it well? What can we improve upon? What I do find most interesting in this conversation is there are a number of people who would champion D6, church and home, faith at home, whatever nomenclature we use, generational discipleship, but there's still so much emphasis on only what happens at church. And so what we have done is we've assembled a group of speakers, challenged them to answer the question, if you were to measure family ministry, how would you help pastors, student pastors, children's pastors, preschool, family pastors, how do we measure the effectiveness of our family ministry? Beyond the, hey, let's count our nickels and noses, as we like to say, our offerings and our total attendance. That's not the health of a church. And so we've assembled a speaker team that will be tackling that both for main stage and breakouts. And then we even drilled down a little further and asked 13 of them to write a chapter in a book. And that book is Recalibrate, named after the theme of the conference. It will have evergreen effect way beyond the conference. But we have 13 authors who's going to write that from the various lenses, both age-specific ministry, big overarching philosophy, and challenges within the church. And so as a result, they're going to write that book, so it'll be available after the conference, or you can get it at the conference if you're there.
Man, that's going to be good.
This is the team one. Come bring your team, go have fun, attend this, break out into groups and have your strategy sessions. Recalibrate your church through recalibrating with our conference. Start there.
Hey, and if you want to be a part of it and save a little money, you can go to d6conference.com. So let's move on now to Lauren, a.k.a. Lil Biggs.
I was doing my best to keep putting that a little further off. Could you tell?
No, you are good. I promise it's going to be painless. Hey, guys, after the break, we're going to hear from Lauren, and she is Ron's daughter, and she is going to share with us her perspective of living and growing up in a D6 family.
Since 2009, the D6 Conference has empowered thousands of church leaders to embrace family ministry and strengthen the connection between church and home. Reaching that many church leaders, think of how many homes and communities across the world have been impacted in the last 9 years. My family, like yours, is among them. As a team here at D6, we've had the privilege of being in Dallas, Louisville, and Greensboro, plus 5 other countries. So each year we prayerfully consider the best place to host this growing international gathering, and we have a big announcement to make. After thoughtful consideration and prayer, we are excited to announce the D6 Conference in 2019 will be hosted in beautiful Orlando, Florida. Did you hear me? Orlando, Florida. The entire team at D6 cannot imagine a more iconic city where you can see families of all ages come together, the very basis of generational discipleship. Imagine debriefing your discipleship strategy on Tom Sawyer Island in the heart of Magic Kingdom. Or take a day at Universal Studios to dream of what your church could do in family ministry. The conference will be hosted at the state-of-the-art Marriott World Center. You gotta check this place out. It's both beautiful and offers fun for your entire family ministry team. So come spend some time away from your daily routine in an affordable city and convention center designed for your family. The D6 Conference is the conversation, Orlando is the venue, but your team brings the chemistry. The D6 Conference always provides world-class learning, networking, and access to family ministry resources. And now we get to do that with you in a brand new way. We can't think of a better place to host the D6 Conference. So lock the dates in your calendar, and we'll see you and your team here in Orlando in 2019.
Hey, everybody, you are going to love today's guest, especially if you're a fan of the D6 world, if you are in the D6 family, if you are a listener to the D6 podcast, you know my co-host and friend and CEO of the D6 family world, that is Ron Hunter. And I love to give Ron a hard time and mess with him, and we have good time on the podcast, but in the end, Ron and I share a passion for parenting, and he knows that he's a father and a husband before he's a minister. And we actually are going to get kind of a cool view into that world today because courageously enough, he's allowing me to interview his own flesh and blood, his daughter.
Woo-hoo.
Lauren, welcome.
Thanks.
Now,
I'm excited.
Your name is Lauren Biggs because you're married.
Yes.
AKA Lil Biggs.
That's right. I'm no longer Little Hunter.
That's right.
Yes.
Lil Biggs, which is one of the coolest nicknames I've ever heard.
I actually love it.
Yes.
It's a good name.
Is it your social media handle?
It is.
Are you being serious? It is?
Well, it's Lar Biggs, so a mixture. I love the Biggs part. You got to include it.
Yes. What's your favorite social media platform right now, by the way?
Definitely Instagram. You know how everyone thinks they're like a photographer?
Yes.
That's probably me. I'm probably not very good, but I like to think I am, so I love Instagram.
Are you artistic?
In a sense. Like, I have fun creating things, but I wouldn't classify myself as an artistic person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I have fun creating things, but I don't think I'm an artist.
Nice.
I don't know.
So, you're 24 years old. Did we get that right? 24? Mm-hmm. And
24 years young.
Bring it, Lil Big. I already like this. This is going to be fun. Look, you're a graduate of Lee University. You majored in interdisciplinary studies. That feels extremely important.
Well, it's a mouthful, and I think it's a bit overplayed, but...
You told me there's 4 majors in one.
Yes.
Bible, theology, psychology, and sociology. That's actually kind of cool.
It is.
A nice little hybrid of subjects there.
It is, and they mix very nicely, too. So they complement each other.
And like I said, you're married and you live in Nashville, Tennessee. So you've chosen to live in the same town as your parents, so you must not hate them too much.
Yeah, well, I actually lived in Chattanooga, Tennessee for the last year while my husband, Austin, was finishing his civil engineering degree at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga.
Yes.
So I had a year away from home, being my first year as a married woman. So it was kind of nice to have that as our own, but both of our families are here in Nashville, so we just kind of came back to our roots to see wherever God takes us. So that's where we're at.
I love it. So you know why you're here.
Yes.
Nobody's dragged you in. You came in here willingly, right? We need to make sure to say that.
I'll say it for the record.
But it's kind of a cool thing because you're 24, so now your brain is fully developed. You're a grown adult, and you can now reflect back on your childhood. And you were raised by your parents who had a Christian worldview and were super intentional about introducing you to the gospel and to a relationship with God and all of those things.
Yeah.
And so we have found in the family ministry world that folks like you have a lot to offer because you can give a different viewpoint of what it's like, because we are always hearing from the people who are strategically trying to help people grow in the faith. but we very rarely hear from the other side of, I'm the one who received that strategic teaching.
That's interesting, yeah.
So that's really what we want to dive into today. And if you can give me any good stories that I can use to get on your dad with, it would be great. I'm a big fan of messing with him, so anything you can give me, I'd appreciate it. But let's start with this. I have a kind of a thing that I use with parents. When I'm in a parenting seminar, I'll say something like this. Let's do a rebel and repeat exercise where, in essence, the idea here is that we all have been raised by somebody, and most of the time we have something that we want to rebel against. It's actually a healthy rebellion. Like, hey, they're not perfect. They did this. I want to rebel against that and do it differently. It ends with me. I'm going to do it differently.
Sure.
We talked about this earlier. You said off the top of your head, you can't really think of too much on that topic. So I'm not going to push that.
Okay.
If something comes to mind, feel free to say
sure.
it. And I know Ron has given us full license. There will be no repercussions here. Plus, he's in charge of the editing, so we're good. So
we're
you can
good.
speak freely. But at the same time, I think you probably do have stuff to say in the world of the repeat, which is, hey, I want to make sure this was given to me, and I want to make sure that if and when I become a parent, I make sure to repeat and pass that along.
Sure.
So what are some of the repeat things?
One major thing that comes to my mind is, as far as D6 goes, we always talk about being intentional with your kids. And I feel as though the persistence and intentionality I received in my childhood is probably one of the major reasons that I have a relationship with God and a good relationship with my parents in general. Because if I think back as a teen and a young teen and a kid, there was so many times where, and the iPods came out in my generation. So there were so many times where I just want to go into my own world and put in my headphones or go with my friends because I'm a social butterfly. So I just wanted to go with my friends and do this or that. And I think the reeling the back in of and being intentional and persistent on spending time together as a family and really making that relationship important is given me such a good foundation. I know me and my dad would take a lot of daddy-daughter dates growing up, and we still kind of do now. But I remember being at Dave & Buster's one night, and we were playing pool together. And a gentleman walked up to us, and he was like, I'm sorry for interrupting, but he said, how do you get your daughter to want to spend time with you as a dad? And when he said that, I was like, it touched my heart in a sense that I'm so thankful I have this, but it also kind of broke my heart because I'm like, does he not know genuinely how to connect with his daughter to spend time together? And there's been several instances where my parents would be out on a date or my dad would be at a movie or doing this or that, and I would just need someone to call and like have a shoulder to cry on or to come pick me up from somewhere. And literally my parents would drop everything they're doing and be there. And that's something I want to give my kids, that safety, the reliability, the intentionality, the persistency, to talk to them whenever they may not want to when they're in their own world or whatever the case may be. But that's a huge thing for me that sticks out in my childhood for sure. Yeah.
How did you guys handle spiritual, faith-based conversations? What was that like for you?
Anytime that I was going to make a decision, whether that was who I'm picking as a friend, who I'm interested in dating, where I was looking at going to college, if I was going to play in soccer tournaments on the weekend, it always came back to the sense of, okay, is God in this? Are you putting him first? Are you praying about this? You can't forget that. You can't forget praying about it. Don't ever make the big life decisions based on emotion, which is huge because you're like, oh, well, I feel so strongly about this, which means I should probably do it this way. Well, not necessarily. You take a look back and, refer to scripture and get advice from other people who are wiser than you. So I think a lot of those conversations around big decisions and practical decisions of how I'm going to spend my time on the weekends and who I'm surrounding myself with was where a lot of the spiritual conversations came into play for me.
So you mentioned dating. Let's go there.
Yeah.
Now, what was Ron like? Did he clean his guns when you brought boys over, or how did he handle that scenario for you?
Well, it's crazy to look back for me because my husband is a believer, but actually, ironically enough, the couple people that I dated as a teenager and in college were not believers. And so looking back on that situation, seeing how my parents handled that, I know they didn't want me in such relationships that were with unbelievers, but they never made it well, you can't date him, you're not allowed to see him, you're not allowed to do this. They were always like, hey, why don't you invite him to church or invite him over for our family game night so we can interact with him and, have those more practical conversations where we don't have to preach at him, but we can show him our lifestyle and how we do things. And then if there ever was a way that they could use a teachable moment, and I know that sounds cliche, but they would bring that person in on the conversation just to give, this is how we do things. So it is kind of weird looking back now. I feel like maybe I disappointed them in some of those instances, but I feel like I learned a lot, and I feel like that probably stretched them as parents more than anything else, looking back, honestly. So sorry about that, but
my bad.
Yeah, my bad.
We all look back to our parents and say, my bad.
I know.
Oh, and if they knew everything, they would probably fall out, wouldn't they?
Literally.
But of course, if their parents knew about them, it'd probably
exactly.
It's okay.
Just a trend. It's
all
fine.
good. It's generation to generation.
Yeah.
It's generational. We like that word around here at
I
D6.
love it.
So, you don't know this about me, but I've got little boys, and I went through cancer.
Oh, really?
So
I didn't know that.
I know that your mom went through that as well. So if you would give me permission, I'd love to kind of hear what it was like from your end and how your family navigated that, and especially how faith was a part of that.
That's a really interesting question. That's a really hard thing looking back for me still. Because my mom's always struggled a little bit with physical health things. So whenever she was diagnosed with cancer, it was almost like, this is another hurdle that I'm going to use to, in the future, give God the glory for, which praise God that she, is in remission now and everything like that. But it was really interesting because her father during that time was also going through chemo and had cancer as well. And so they kind of fought that together, and it was really cool to see my grandfather. He was a huge influence in the spiritual realm of her life growing up. So it was just really cool to see her be able to lean on her dad and him to have the wisdom and the help to give her, I'm going through this with you, and just kind of keeping in perspective, God has a plan even though this sucks and even though we don't understand. But that was a big conversational piece that, God's got this. We can't do anything. We're humans. If everything was going to be perfect, then we wouldn't need God. So we just have to look to him more and depend on him more in these type of situations. But to go back to the story, her father passed away 2 months after she was declared in remission, which is so crazy to me. And this might be me making it up in my head, but he'd had cancer for years and fought and fought and fought and fought and fought. And then she had it for 6 months. And after her remission, 2 months later, he passed away. So I almost feel like God used my grandfather, kept him fighting, gave him strength until my mom got better, quotations, and then he went to be with the Lord. So I just feel like God was working in that situation to give her someone who knew what she was going through in that moment that was so close to her in general. I don't know, that might be far-fetched, and I might be saying that to make myself feel better, but I do feel like that was God working in her life. So that was really cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
So another thing I like to talk about when I talk to parents is I tell them there are times when things aren't really going well, where your kid probably is not too fun to be around because they're either just angry, rebellious, whatever. And you have to make parenting decisions where the 30-year-old version of your child will thank you for it. Does that make sense when I say that?
Yes.
Okay. So where I'm going with this question is, you're 24, you're not 30.
Yeah.
But you're the 24-year-old version of your parents' child. Now, were there moments where they had to parent you in such a way that maybe in the moment you didn't like it, but now as a 24-year-old, you can look back and say, thank you for that?
One instance really sticks out in my head. There was a time when I didn't want to go to church camp, and then some other Christian conferences and things, but my parents just pushed me anyways, even though it was going to be out of my comfort zone. Like one specific camp that I went to was in California, and I was going to be going by myself, flying by myself for the first time. For 2 weeks, I was going to be away without any contact. And I didn't know anybody. And so I'm like, I don't want to go. But they knew the impact long term that it would have. And so just those moments of they have that discernment, they have that insight to kind of see more big picture and long term, where in the moment I was so caught up in, I don't have any friends there, or, it's an emotional response of something that I didn't want to do. But they just looked at the bigger picture and pushed me through it anyways and said, don't quit. God's going to use this, and it's going to be a long-term impact. So I guess that might be an instance where they pushed me to do things that I didn't want to.
I love that.
Yeah. That answers the question.
It totally answers it. You're doing such a great job.
I know, this is my first experience.
You've never been interviewed before?
No.
Because you're killing it.
Woo!
Woo!
Yes.
And yet, as far as I know, you've done nothing to embarrass your father.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm a little disappointed, but I guess you're feeling good about that.
Yeah, well, we talked about it in our lunch this morning a little bit about how he's so OCD and germophobic. It's insane. Anytime we go out to eat, it's just so funny to watch him cringe silently because he won't complain about it. He might be a little bit vocal and say, can you not double dip, or can you not do this or that? So I don't know if that's an instance, but it is hilarious to see him do that.
Oh, then I'm going to start giving him full frontal hugs just to annoy him now.
You should do that, or take a sip out of his drink or something. Just be like, hey, can I try this real quick? And just insist. You should or you should I don't know, take away a serving spoon the next time we all go eat. So he has to use his personal. And then he's not going to want to eat out of it. It's hilarious.
And I think it's funny how there's some serious role reversal, because we were just at lunch and it was kind of a buffet type thing. And you looked at his plate and said, you don't have any vegetables on there.
Yeah. I was shocked. He had a plate full of things. It's crazy. I have to keep him in check sometimes,
So as a 24-year-old having a relationship with your dad, what's that like?
It's the best, honestly. He's definitely been someone, like I said, and my mom too. They're both just very reliable. So I know that they're going to give me sound advice, and they're always going to be there, to provide the unconditional love or grace as I'm figuring out life in general. Which obviously as a 24-year-old, I have a lot to learn. But I think it's so important, like I said earlier, to just be building that relationship with your son or daughter while they're young, so you have that strong foundation, that built trust, and that comfort zone almost. Because now that I'm married and on my own and things, I don't need my parents as much as I, did when I was living at home. But when I have kids one day, I'm going to want to be able to ask them advice and questions. And even now, we reach out and we'll go out to eat and things like that. But I don't know. I just think building the relationship with your parents is so important. Being intentional about that. I feel like we keep saying that, but.
No, it's so good. So I kind of want to end. Crazy enough, we're at the end already.
Okay.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, time flies.
I want to. Time flies when my interview is good.
Ooh.
It doesn't always fly.
I'll be here every day.
A little big. It doesn't always fly. Hey, so we have this concept in the D6 world that we use with parents, try to teach them how to give a spiritual blessing. All right, so I'm going to explain that to you.
Okay.
I'm sure you may can kind of figure it out, but let me give you some detail. We basically what we're doing is a parent is saying to a kid, hey, this is what God made you to be. It's like holding up a mirror to their soul and saying, look, this is who you are.
Yeah.
Because God made you uniquely like this.
Yeah.
So I thought it would be a kind of a cool way to end our time.
Okay.
For you to give a spiritual blessing to your parents. And so I'm going to talk for a little bit while your mind can think for a second.
Yeah.
But basically, you're just filling in this one question. Hey, Mom, Dad, God made you to be this. and just answer that for however many words you can come up with. I think it would be cool to see a reverse blessing where the kid blesses their parents. Would you be down with that, Lil Big?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So God has made your parents to be what?
I would say I might do them separate.
Please do them separate.
Okay.
God has made your mom to be.
I think God has made my mom to be a woman of strength and reliance upon God, and modeling her faith in the most difficult circumstances. And then my dad, I would say God has made him to be definitely a leader with integrity and a gentle and unconditionally loving father on earth. Is that okay?
I think that's more than okay, Lil Big.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
Well,
those are good attributes to describe both of them. And so I feel like that's who God has made them because that's who they are to me. So.
Well, our kids are the greatest testimony and test of our lives. And you, as I look and spend some time with you, your parents have passed with flying colors. They did a great job with you.
I love them.
And I pray that as you, if you choose to become a mom, that you'll just continue to pass it on from generation to generation.
Yes, that's what it's about, for sure.
Thanks for being with us, Lil Big. I appreciate it. I will never call you Lauren again. Lil Big is who you are.
That's me.
Hey, guys, this has been Lil Big. If you want to check her out on social media, you can go to Lore Big, right?
Lore Big's 4.
Oh, Laura Biggs 4. Laura Biggs 4. Go check it out.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Should they check it out? You're appropriate on your social media.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Just teasing. All
I
right,
can always
everybody.
use new followers. No, I'm just
Hook
kidding.
her up. Build her digital platform.
Yes.
Her digital footprint needs to increase. Go check her out. Hey, thanks for being with us. Seriously,
No,
this has been
thank you.
awesome.
Thanks.
Are you looking for the right conference to attend this year? The D6 Conference is a family ministry conference designed for your entire ministry team. Come hear from over 30 speakers and network with churches that share your passion for reaching families. Family ministry isn't just another program. It's one of the most important things your church can do to make a difference in your city. At the D6 Conference, you'll be inspired and equipped to take your family ministry to the next level. To learn more about the D6 Conference, just go to d6conference.com.
So, hey, Lil Big, whatever. She was awesome. You have an amazing daughter, Ron.
She's super big in my eyes and certainly in her mom's eyes. We are incredibly proud of her. What a man. Jeremy, you surprised me with a reverse blessing. Mm-hmm. She described her mom absolutely spot on. She is strength, and she's faced some real challenges and has modeled strength in front of our kids. And it's really cool to see you got a glimpse of our daughter. Our son is equally impressive. And to see them living their life fully with God, imperfectly, both of them, just like her mom and I are very imperfect. But there's a pursuit of God and in the path that we've been in, and it's just really cool to see them walk that journey and for us to glimpse it, be a part of it, continue to coach it a little bit when asked, but not to insert ourselves. It's a neat season of life.
There is no greater joy than to see that my children walk with the Lord.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well done to you, man.
Thank you for
well
taking time to
more so well done to your wife.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
no, she was
cool.
a pleasure, and that was a pleasure too. Thank you for allowing that. So we're going to continue the theme of daughters because next week our guest is a daughter of our buddy Jim Weidman. But in her own right, she is a performer, worship leader, and an expert on the subject of worship, in my opinion. And she's going to talk to us about how to help parents explain the concept of worship to their kids.
And that daughter is already a mom herself, so we're catching the middle generation.
Yes.
So this will be good.
It is super cool to see this generational conversation. Your daughter caught it, and I know what we're going to hear next week. And Yancey, our guest, she as well
Yes.
mentions that, the influence of her parents. And it is just, it's really cool to like you said, catch it in the middle.
Yeah,
So that's
definitely.
a cool thing.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I hope this was encouraging to you. And I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And also, I hope that you have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.